Subscribe for Reddit's controversial opinions. Calling a race racist because some are racist is, in and of itself, racist. I'm tired of people calling all of a certain race racist. Racism is casting a net over a population and basing an opinion on them because of the actions of a few of them. Calling an entire race racist is racist. Also, calling something, such as tests, racist because a certain population does worse than others, is just wrong. IQ tests used to be used in schools, but nowadays, they aren't used in schools because they thought it was racist because a certain race was doing poorly. Nowadays, you can't say someone's race without being called racist, unless they're white. How is someone supposed to describe someone that isn't white without being racist? They can't. I know I sound like a boomer here, but seriously, racism isn't a big deal nowadays. The overreaction and wanted equality, which will never happen, is. We can never achieve equality. But we can achieve fairness. Pretty popular opinion. I am and always will be a racist. Everyone in my family is a racist. We're so racist that we've watched every single NASCAR race and we all drive manuals too. That's how racist we are. Smiling face with sunglasses. Some races are superior to others, mainly the F1 races, nothing like a good old race war. I love being a racist around everyone I see, but not everyone appreciates the power of my Mustang. One time I got kicked out of a restaurant for telling everyone that I'm a racist. I wish more people were as racist as I am. Upvote if you're a true racist. I'm tired of people calling all of a certain race racist. Very few people actually do this. Ignore them, they're racists. IQ tests used to be used in schools, but nowadays, they aren't used in schools because they thought it was racist because a certain race was doing poorly. It's not the IQ tests themselves that are racist, but the way certain people, i.e., racists, interpret the results. Your assumption that certain races inherently do worse at IQ tests is a misunderstanding of how the results are obtained. In other words, you've been misinformed by racists. Here is a fairly balanced article, https://www.theatlantic.com/national/archive/2013/05/ Why people keep misunderstanding the connection between race and IQ/2758776/ about race, IQ, and some of the actual factors that cause the differences. If you're genuinely interested, have a read. The TLDR version is that socio-economic factors as well as the complexity of the society you live in has a very strong impact on your IQ, as being wealthy and living in a technologically complex society gives you more opportunities to develop the kind of skills and aptitudes IQ tests test in you. In other words, if you're taken out of school at 12 to help your parents with their subsistence farm, then you may not have the time or opportunity to develop higher cognitive skills, your reading comprehension or your analytical thinking in the same way that you would if you were put in a private school by your upper middle class parents. So yes, if you test a bunch of kids in the US, then you test a bunch of kids in Guatemala, you'll get different average results. And no, it doesn't mean the Hispanic kids are inherently less intelligent. It could feel good to think so, if you're a racist, but it's just plain untrue. Nowadays, you can't say someone's race without being called racist. Strawman, moving on. Racism isn't a big deal nowadays. Do you really believe this? I guess you could if the only kind of racism you can picture is the over-the-top, cartoonish level racism usually portrayed in movies. I'm guessing you probably also hate the idea of white privilege, but here's the thing, it's a very misunderstood term, and I feel like there needs to be some new term for the concept that redirects the focus from the white part to the underprivileged part instead. White privilege isn't about what you get extra, so you can forget all the jokes about when your privilege check is coming or whatever. It's about what doesn't happen to you because you're white. It's how people don't suspect you might be trouble, or how cops and other state employees treat you nicer. You're the standard, the expected, the baseline. Women don't clutch their purses when you walk by, You don't get the police called on you for just idling somewhere you're actually allowed to be, because it's simply assumed that you're meant to be there. If you commit a crime, you're simply a citizen that has done wrong and is getting punished. You're not assumed to be a gangbanger thug who obviously chose a life of crime, etc. We can never achieve equality. Equality of outcome and equality of opportunity are very different things. The latter is not only desirable, but achievable as well. If you don't want everyone to have the same opportunity to succeed in life regardless of their race/sex/belief/etc., you should really ask yourself why you feel that way, instead of pretending it can't be done. I live in a very homogeneous society. We're like 88% the same ethnicity and 95% white. There's one minority in our country that is poorly integrated, socio-economically stunted, and overrepresented in crime. There are a lot of reasons for why they are this way, and I'm not going to get into that now cause this post is already long. Most people here are what you would call cartoonishly racist towards them and very open about it. It's not a controversial thing at all. The thing is, I watch US news and I see a lot of similar behavior from white Americans towards their minorities, which are way more integrated and often perfectly functional members of their society. Racism isn't dead in your country, far from it. IQ tests aren't exactly reliable though. Not unpopular. Just a vent. Okay, no, the tests thing is semi-legit, like, it's less of a problem now, but some of the standardized tests had questions that required cultural context to understand that some people didn't have. Like, they knew how to do the problem on a technical level, but they couldn't figure out what it was asking for reasons beyond their control. That being said, the issue right now is not that the tests are racist, it's that on average black people tend to live in the inner city more so than white people, and on average inner city schools suck. The reasons for this are complicated but essentially boil down to people were really fucking racist in like the 50s-ish, and they fucked over black people in ways that persist to this day and are really hard to undo. Primarily discriminatory housing practices, so, it's not so much current racism so much as the difficulties of undoing the impact of the racist practices of previous generations. Calling a race racist because some are racist is, in and of itself, racist. Popular opinion. Nowadays, you can't say someone's race without being called racist, unless they're white. How is someone supposed to describe someone that isn't white without being racist? They can't. This isn't true, even on woke Twitter. I live in lefty Canada and even here the news still refers to suspects/victims by race. You could argue they're quicker to release the race of white suspects after serious events, but we absolutely are allowed to point out people's race without being racist.